Hey, Mike here. I just wanted to let you know that you can listen to Dark Poutine early and ad-free on Amazon Music, included with Prime.
Welcome back to Dark Poutine. I am Mike Brown, and I see my good friend Matthew there in one of his fancy shirts.
I haven't seen you for a while.
No, it's been almost a month.
Yeah, I mean, we've not sort of missed a month worth of shows. We just haven't recorded for a month.
Yeah, because I went home, and I was expecting only to go home for Christmas, and things didn't turn out the way that we'd hoped, but...
No, sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Anyway, let us forge forth. We have a show to do.
The views, information, and opinions expressed during the Dark Poutine podcast are solely those of the producer and do not necessarily represent those of Curious Cast, its affiliate, Global News, nor their parent company, Chorus Entertainment.
Dark Poutine is not for the faint of heart or squeamish. Listener discretion is strongly advised. We're not experts on the topics we present, nor are we journalists. We're two ordinary Canadian schmucks chatting about crime and the dark side of history. Let's get to it. Put on your toque, grab yourself a double-double and a Nanaimo bar. It's time to scarf down some Dark Poutine.
You are responsible for obtaining and maintaining at your own cost all equipment needed to listen to Dark Poutine. Dark Poutine can be addictive. Side effects may include, but not be limited to, pausing and questioning the system, elevated heart rate, pondering humanity, odd looks from colleagues as you laugh out loud at work, family members not into true crime worrying about you. Positive side effects may include some perspectives and opinions that you disagree with, as well as some wokeness and empathy. If you don't think Dark Poutine is for you, consult your doctor immediately.
On March 8, 1987, a routine Sunday morning traffic stop on a quiet stretch of Route 640 between Yoho Lake and Hanwell to the southwest of Fredericton, New Brunswick, turned into a tragedy that shocked the nation. Constable Emmanuel Manni Aucoin, a 31-year-old highway patrol officer, husband and father of two young children, was shot and killed in the line of duty. His murderer, Anthony Phillip Romeo, an American fugitive who was wanted for another killing in New York, had been fleeing authorities when Aucoin pulled him over for speeding. Romeo shot Aucoin in the head as he wrote up a ticket, leaving him to die in his cruiser before fleeing back to the United States. Romeo was later captured, claiming Aucoin was a monster who'd been killing young men like him. Constable Aucoin was the third Canadian police officer killed on duty in 1987 and was the first and only member of the New Brunswick Highway Patrol ever to die while serving. This is Dark Poutine episode 351, Killed on the Job, Constable Emmanuel Aucoin. Joseph Emmanuel Aucoin was born on November 14, 1955, at Mont Carmel near Summerside in Canada's smallest province, Prince Edward Island. Emmanuel was one of 7 children, and those who knew him well called him Manni. When Manni was just 2 years old, his dad, a fisherman and veteran of World War II, was severely injured in a gasoline explosion. This left him on life support, clinging to life for 10 years before he passed away. Manni was too young to remember having a meaningful relationship with his dad. Manni's mom, Arlene, was left alone with her gaggle of kids. Even with a small amount of compensation from her husband's military service, Arlene struggled to make ends meet. Despite not having his father's influence, Manni grew into a conscientious, community-minded, hard-working, and kind-hearted person.
Sounds like his mom did a good job.
It does. It sounds like his mom and whoever else in the family was there to help her.
And neighbors, whoever, right?
Yep, this is how things go in the Maritimes. Manni grew up, fell in love with, and married his wife Esther, and they started having a family, First, a daughter, Valerie, followed 2 years later by a son, Jeremy. Manni had been driving a taxi in Summerside for a few years when he told his mother he intended to pursue a career as a police officer. He was off to the Atlantic Police Academy, APA, at Holland College. Established in 1971, the APA has long been a cornerstone in training public safety professionals in Canada. Since its inception, the Academy has prepared thousands of officers for careers in law enforcement and other public safety roles, with estimates suggesting that over 5,000 police officers have completed training there. The APA has also offered in-service training, enabling current professionals to advance their skills and stay updated on evolving practices. Located in Slemon Park, Summerside, the Academy occupies a site with a storied past. Formerly the Canadian Forces Base Summerside, the area transitioned into a commercial and aviation hub after the base's closure. The APA used this site's facilities to develop state-of-the-art training programs to meet the complex demands of modern public safety roles. This setting provides students with access to a dynamic and immersive training environment. The Academy offers a variety of programs designed to prepare individuals for careers in public safety. These include the 24-week Correctional Officer Program, which equips students to work in federal and provincial correctional facilities, the Police Science Cadet Program, which emphasizes academic and tactical skills through real-life situations, and the Professional Firefighter Program, which develops essential firefighting competencies. The Academy's curriculum is continually updated to address challenges faced by professionals in these fields.
It's interesting that they do firefighting there as well, because that's quite a different job than security services. Right?
Well, here in British Columbia, we have a place called the Justice Institute in New Westminster, and that is where first responders are trained. So,
really?
Yep.
That's really, yeah, my nephew is going to college in the autumn this year for firefighting.
He may end up in a place where they have other programs that are dedicated to other first responder related things. Like there's a sheriff's course in the JIBC, security, police, fire, paramedics.
Should I take a sheriff's course?
Pardon?
Should I take a sheriff's course?
It's not the fun cowboy sheriff that you're thinking of, Matthew. It's a different situation. I knew exactly where you were going with that, but yeah, Matthew gets to wear the big tin star on his chest.
And Steve will be the official
Deputy
dog.
Deputy Steve. Manni Aucoin graduated from the APA in 1984 and moved to Harvey, New Brunswick, where he went to work for the New Brunswick Highway Patrol. Harvey is a small rural community in York County. It is approximately 35 kilometers southwest of Fredericton, the provincial capital, along Route 3. The village lies near Harvey Lake, a scenic area that offers outdoor recreational opportunities and picturesque landscapes. Before the arrival of European settlers, the area now known as Harvey was part of the traditional territory Wolastoqiyik Maliseet people, who are part of the larger Wabanaki Confederacy. The Wolastoqiyik, whose name means people of the beautiful river, lived along the Wolastoq, now known as the St. John River, and its tributaries, including the lands surrounding what is now Harvey. They relied on the region's abundant natural resources, practicing a semi-nomadic lifestyle that included hunting, fishing, gathering, and cultivating crops such as corn, beans, and squash. The Harvey area would have been part of seasonal travel routes, with its lakes, rivers, and forests providing vital sustenance and spiritual significance. The arrival of Scottish settlers in the 19th century marked a significant change to the land use and landscape as Indigenous peoples were displaced and marginalized. Harvey was settled in 1837 by a group of Scottish immigrants from the Paisley area of Scotland. These settlers were brought to New Brunswick under a program aimed at relieving population pressures in Scotland while populating rural areas in Canada. The immigrants arrived aboard the brig Cornelius of Sunderland, led by Captain John Little. Early settlers relied on farming to sustain their community, cultivating crops and raising livestock. Over time, the area grew into a close-knit, self-sufficient rural settlement with a strong emphasis on community and family ties. Harvey's economy was based on agriculture, logging, and small-scale industries in its early years. As transportation improved, Harvey benefited from connections to larger towns like Fredericton, allowing residents to trade and access additional goods and services. In the late 1980s, when Manni Aucoin arrived in Harvey, it maintained its rural charm and was close enough to the city to make it a great place to raise a family. Farming still played an essential role in its economy and lifestyle. Many families worked in agriculture, supplemented by employment in small businesses or commuting to jobs in Fredericton. Harvey Lake and its surrounding area were popular for fishing, boating, and summer picnics. The rural setting offered a peaceful lifestyle and traditions such as Scottish Highland gatherings and other cultural celebrations. Life in Harvey revolved around local community events, church activities, and family gatherings. Schools and sports such as hockey and baseball were central to youth culture, and the village hall served as a hub for social events like dances and fundraisers. Like many small communities during the 1980s, Harvey faced challenges such as rural depopulation with younger residents moving to urban centers for education and employment opportunities. However, the strong sense of community helped retain its identity. Constable Manni Aucoin was a well-known and well-liked figure in the village as a member of the NBHP detachment there. The New Brunswick Highway Patrol, NBHP, was established in 1978 under Premier Richard Hatfield's administration. Initially comprising 25 officers transferred from the Department of Transportation to the Department of Justice. Their primary responsibilities included traffic patrol, commercial vehicle enforcement, and upholding highway laws.
Okay, so commercial vehicle enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been reading the news about the number of incidents here in BC with commercial trucks hitting bridges?
Yes. Yeah.
It's like there's a spate of them since 2021. There's 34 trucks hit bridges, and to the point where they've increased the fines to $100,000 and up to 18 months in prison.
They even shut down one trucking company that seemed to be responsible for many of them.
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, I do love watching YouTube videos when trucks have their beds up and bash into bridges.
It's terrible, though.
It's terrible, but it's kind of cool to watch.
I guess so. In 1980, the New Brunswick Department of Justice's Enforcement Unit was officially renamed the New Brunswick Highway Patrol, marking a shift towards a more comprehensive policing role. Throughout the early 1980s, the NBHP expanded its operations to cover all provincial highways, growing to 114 uniformed officers. These officers were trained as peace officers with the same responsibilities as other police forces in the province under the Police Act. March 8, 1987, was a typical lazy Sunday morning in Harvey. The day started for Manni Aucoin before sunrise. He donned his NBHP uniform and headed out the door to begin his day. Manni then checked in with dispatch and gathered updates on road conditions, accidents, and ongoing investigations. Given March's transitional weather, key concerns that morning would have been icy patches on rural roads, black ice on bridges, or areas prone to drifting snow. Manni would have had to start his patrol car to warm it up while scraping the night's frost from the windows of his Crown Vic. The sun was not fully up when Manni Aucoin hit the road. The highway would have been relatively empty, with just a few early risers and long-haul truckers sharing the road with Manni. The NBHP patrolman's responsibilities included, among other things, monitoring speeds to ensure compliance with posted limits, keeping an eye out for impaired drivers returning from Saturday night outings, assisting with roadside emergencies such as a car sliding into a snowbank or a flat tire, and patrolling remote areas for signs of illegal activity such as poaching or logging violations, which were occasional concerns in rural New Brunswick. Manni's route that morning took him along Hanwell Road, past Yoho Lake. This popular fishing spot is home to various fish species, including yellow perch, rainbow trout, Atlantic salmon, striped bass, smallmouth bass, and red-breast sunfish, representing the northernmost population of this species globally. Additionally, the lake is renowned for its thriving population of common loons, like the ones you hear calling at the beginning of every episode of Dark Poutine. Court documents indicate that at around 10:30 a.m., Bernetta White was driving toward Fredericton on Hanwell Road when she noticed an NBHP patrol car with its emergency lights activated and what appeared to be a gray Porsche stopped in front of it. The car was gold, but road salt obscured its actual color.
You know, I was talking to my friend Richard this week. He's moving from the UK to Brooklyn, and he's going down to South by Southwest, the show in Texas.
Yep.
And he said, I'm going to buy a car while I'm in Texas, and I'm going to drive to see you. And I said, why are you buying a car in Texas? And he said, no salt.
Right.
Because I was just sitting here thinking, oh, that Porsche should have been covered. And yeah, I mean, we don't get lots of salt here in BC, like in Vancouver area. But he said, yeah, if you get a car in Texas or somewhere where there's no salt, then you don't get a rusty used car.
I really want to meet Richard, to tell you the truth.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
As Bernetta White passed the scene, she noted a scruffy-looking young man who was searching through the hatchback of the gray car while a police officer in the patrol vehicle appeared to be writing a ticket. Shortly after passing the scene, Bernetta heard a crack, which she interpreted as a gunshot. Looking back through her rearview mirror, she saw what she presumed to be the man who'd been rummaging in the back of the stopped car, standing in the middle of the road beside the patrol car. Approximately 5 minutes later, Ellen Graham MacDonald was returning home from her camp on Yoho Lake, headed toward Fredericton. The woman noticed an NBHP patrol car and a sports car, the same Porsche seen by Bernetta White, pulled over on the side of the road in what appeared to be a traffic stop. As she approached, the sports car sped off at a high rate of speed. As she drove off, Ellen thought it was strange that the officer in the car, who seemed to be bent over to pick something up, had not reacted when the other car took off like it did. At approximately 11:05, Richard Corey and his wife, unnamed in reports, noticed Manni Aucoin's patrol car parked by the roadside. As the couple slowed, they saw the patrol car's driver's side window was rolled down and the emergency lights were still flashing. It did not appear to the Coreys that anyone was inside the patrol car. There were footprints in the snow around the car and in the snow toward the brush along the roadside. The Coreys drove off, thinking perhaps the car had broken down and the officer who had been driving it had left for some reason. Something didn't feel right. They'd only driven about a quarter mile when Mrs. Corey implored Richard to turn back. Richard Corey was quoted in the Daily Gleaner, a Fredericton newspaper, quote, "We had gone about a quarter of a mile when my wife said she thought something was wrong other than a mechanical failure because the window was rolled down and the emergency lights were flashing. She said there was no way the officer would have left the vehicle like that, even if it was broke down. I got to thinking about it and figured she was probably right." End quote.
Okay, first of all, I love the name of the paper, the Daily Gleaner.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right? I love the word glean, right?
Yes.
To glean the truth.
Yes.
And secondly, there are two very different types of people in life.
Yep.
Those who turn around and those who don't.
Right.
I am definitely a turner arounder, and my husband is a definitely do not.
Yeah, I'm a turner arounder too.
Yeah, just to make sure people are okay. Despite the craziness out in the world, I figure if I don't stop and try to help people, who will, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Richard Corey drove back to the police cruiser, exited his vehicle, and approached the patrol car to look inside. He saw an officer slumped toward the passenger side of the front seat, having been shot in the head, and was not moving. There was blood everywhere. He did not notice any bullet holes in the cruiser's windows, though the driver's side window was lowered more than halfway. Richard Corey mentioned that another vehicle arrived at the scene around that time. He instructed the driver, whom he could not identify, to remain there while he went to seek help. After contacting the police by phone at a nearby home, he returned to the site. Corey added that he had not seen any vehicles on his way and none passed him coming from the Fredericton direction. Whoever had done this had to have driven in the other direction. Members of the NBHP and the RCMP descended on the scene, and it was clear to the attending first responders that Manni Aucoin, slumped over on the front bench seat of his cruiser, was dead. Constable Aucoin's revolver was still in its holster. The pen Manni had been using to write a ticket was still clutched in his hand. These factors and the wound in the side of the officer's head indicated that he'd not been aware of the danger and had been taken unaware by the gunshot from a high-powered rifle that had killed him instantly. Constable Aucoin had not had time to radio his location before being shot, leading investigators to presume that the shooting had taken place quickly after the constable had pulled over a speeder. The speeding ticket that Constable Aucoin had been writing was present on a clipboard near the officer's body. It contained some crucial evidence, including a description of the car, a gold 1986 Porsche, registered with New York plates. Perhaps most essential to solving the murder was the name of the sports car's driver, a 24-year-old man from New York State, already wanted in connection with a 1985 murder there. While the investigation into Emmanuel Aucoin's murder and efforts to preserve evidence began, so did the manhunt for Anthony Phillip Romeo. More after a quick break. And we are back. Matthew, thoughts so far?
Well, the first thing is, it just seems such a waste of his life. It's so sad. And I get nervous for police that are out there on their own on highways.
Right.
It's sort of because there's sort of like a target on them for people who are idiots. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I don't know. Do many police, highway police, do it on their own?
I think there are still lots of jurisdictions where police are on their own.
Yeah, because they can't afford double salaries.
That's right.
Yep. I kind of want police to have a doubled up buddy system to be safe. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Even if it's just some rando, like it's like some.
Yeah. Have ride-alongs. Hey, if any police are listening, if you want me ever to have a ride-along with you, if you're highway patrolling on your own, invite me. I'll definitely join you.
I would love to do it. Yeah. As word of Constable Aucoin's death made the rounds in radio, television, and newspaper reports, the debate about the return of the death penalty in Canada also arose, as it often does after a cop's murder. Some people in our country still believe that the murder of a police officer should be punishable by death. Aucoin's wife, Esther, however, was not one of them. Esther said that one death was enough and another would not serve Manni's memory. In a letter read by the Reverend Everett Henneberry at Aucoin's funeral at a packed St. Dunstan's Basilica in Charlottetown, Esther indicated that Manni loved being a police officer. He was proud to be a member of the NBHP and fully believed in what he was doing.
So why do people, it seems that people call more for the death penalty when a police officer is shot?
Yeah.
But not, maybe less for others. And I'm kind of, what do you think the psychology is with that, Mike?
Well, I think, police are what I've been told about it, because I've asked a few people. Yeah. People believe that because somebody is a first responder and they're out there putting their lives on the line for us anyway,
right,
that they should have special protection. I kind of don't agree, and because I don't agree with the death penalty at all. So
I don't either, and it's I'd see that as a thin edge of a wedge of, well, they do it for police. Why not for children? Or why not for this? Or why not for that? And then before you know it, we're slaughtering people left, right, and center.
I don't know if there's any cases that have been filed yet or successfully prosecuted, but I know that Florida has implemented execution for people convicted of certain child sexual assault cases.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like you say, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, I'm just not for culture of vengeance.
No.
Esther's letter also indicated that Manni had concerns about being alone on patrol. He had felt that it would be safer for highway patrol officers to travel in pairs, a sentiment that gained traction in the media and became a part of the conversation around Manni Aucoin's death. Constable Aucoin's mother, Arlene, learned from her son, Alir, a member of the Canadian Armed Forces, stationed at CFB Gagetown, about Manni's death by way of a phone call. She later told the Daily Gleaner in 2005, near the anniversary of Constable Aucoin's death, quote, "He told me Emmanuel had been killed. It was an awful shock. The police here were supposed to come to the house and tell me, but they hadn't done that when Alir called. I couldn't believe it. You just don't expect that in this part of the country," end quote. Arlene continued, quote, "We were very proud of him, and I usually didn't worry much about him. No one expected his life would be in danger. He was very well respected in the community. People still stop me on the street and mention his name. They remember him as being big-hearted, always with a smile for everyone. I think about him a lot, and I still miss him," end quote. Roadblocks were set up, and an all-points bulletin was issued for Anthony Romeo and his gold Porsche with the New York plates. However, communication was a lot slower in those days. Shortly after the shooting, Romeo drove to St. Stephen, where he encountered Alexander Cogswell, a pedestrian. Romeo initially said the word garage, but quickly interrupted to ask for directions to the bus station. Before Cogswell could finish providing directions, Romeo abruptly took off, nearly colliding with another vehicle, and turned right toward the U.S.-Canadian border. Cogswell later said that the young man appeared fidgety, nervous, and in a hurry. Additionally, he noted that the car seemed to be overheating. Romeo had crossed back into the United States at the border crossing between St. Stephen, New Brunswick, and Calais, Maine, before word of the dangerous fugitive got to the border agents on either side of the line. A customs officer, Sylvia Cutliff on the U.S. side, remembered the gold Porsche but had no idea at the time the driver was now suspected of not only one but two murders, and one of them was a police officer. The victim of the 1985 murder on Fire Island was John Starkey III, the son of an aide to New York Governor Mario Cuomo, in November 1985. Fire Island, a resort destination with numerous summer homes and entertainment venues, serves as a retreat for affluent New Yorkers. Starkey was killed sometime between November 2nd and November 6, 1985.
You know, as a gay man, I feel like I need to get to Fire Island. I've never been there.
Why is it? Is it a?
It's a very famous gay destination.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Fire Island, super gay.
Okay.
And friends of mine, the Oppenheimers, have a house there. I should, and they've invited me. Maybe I'll go this summer.
The Oppenheimers?
The Oppenheimers.
Well, is it the same Oppenheimer who created the bomb? Is that the Oppenheimers or?
No. Children of Senator Oppenheimer.
Oh, okay. Well,
not the bomb one, the other ones.
Not the bomb Oppenheimer.
You know, there's an Oppenheimer Park here in Vancouver.
Yes, there is, yeah.
I wonder if he was related to the bomb dude.
I don't know. There can't be too many Oppenheimer families, really.
Yeah, I don't know of many. Just the park, the bomb guy, and my friends. Those are the only three that I know.
There you go.
According to his later indictment, Anthony Romeo was accused of brutally murdering Starkey by beating him and shooting him multiple times at close range. The injuries included gunshot wounds to the left arm, stomach, groin, and ear. Evidence linked Romeo to the crime. Hair samples were found in Starkey's hand, and his death was tied to a .357 caliber Smith & Wesson revolver registered to Romeo, later turned over to police by his father. Forensic tests revealed traces of Starkey's blood beneath the pistol grips of the weapon. Romeo was ordered to provide blood and hair samples for the investigation on March 5, 1987, but had fled across the border into Canada. The investigation later revealed that on March 3, 1987, Anthony Romeo left his parents' home driving his 1986 Porsche leased by his father's company without saying where he was going. With him, he had a Winchester lever-action rifle with a significant amount of ammunition, a crossbow with various arrows and tips, and additional firearm ammunition. He also packed personal items, including clothing and a sleeping bag. The run-in resulting in Constable Aucoin's murder was not the only interaction that Romeo had with police in Canada. On March 5, 1987, at approximately 10:30 a.m., Constable Mandeville of the Quebec Provincial Police stopped Romeo for speeding near Saguet Lake in Mont-Laurier, Quebec. The incident was documented with a ticket and a road map, later introduced as evidence at his trial. 2 days after the first encounter with law enforcement, on March 7th, Constable Guy Perron of the RCMP stopped Romeo near Campbellton, New Brunswick. Although Perron had no specific reason for the stop beyond suspicion, he warned Romeo that he would be monitored if he stayed in the area.
So, Mike, if you're on the run for murder,
right,
and you kind of want to lay low,
right,
perhaps you don't take such a flash car like a Porsche, and perhaps you don't speed everywhere where you're going.
Yeah.
Take a Toyota Corolla. Do they still make those?
They do.
Take a Toyota Corolla, right? And I mention that because it's like a very common,
or a Prius even,
car, and drive the speed limit. If you're like, if I don't want people chasing me, I wouldn't get a supercar and speeding tickets.
No. Later in the evening of March 5th, Romeo was seen in Blackville, New Brunswick, where a local youth briefly interacted with him. They noted that he seemed nervous or frightened and invited him to a social event in Fredericton, which he declined. That same night, Romeo visited a Pizza Hut in Fredericton. A waitress found him intimidating and incoherent, while a waiter observed that he appeared preoccupied but ordered his meal calmly. By the early hours of March 8th, Romeo's Porsche was spotted at a service station in Meductic, New Brunswick. He had slept in the car overnight and attempted to arrange transport for his vehicle to New York, but became upset when informed it was not possible. Between 6:30 and 7 a.m., Romeo left Meductic and drove toward Fredericton and the fatal encounter with Manni Aucoin. After the murder, Romeo's Porsche was found near Bangor International Airport, where he purchased a one-way ticket to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He bought the ticket under the name Philip Cortino rather than his real name. The Delta Airlines ticket agent who sold him the ticket did not notice anything unusual about his demeanor or behavior. From Bangor, his flight included a layover at Logan Airport in Boston before continuing to Fort Lauderdale. By the time Romeo's description reached the airport, he was already on the flight. It was then that authorities got word that their suspect was on the plane.
Oh, the days when you can fly without ID.
Right?
Yeah.
It's very strange, like to do this kind of research around that era. It's like, some rando could just say, I'm Bob Jones and I want to be on this plane.
And they ruined it for the rest of us.
Of course. Yeah.
Right? It's just because if you think about it, right? It's like we're all numbered and you have to show ID for everything these days.
Yeah.
It's kind of depressing.
Yeah. By the time Romeo's flight landed at Logan Airport in Boston, state police officers were on high alert. They were instructed to look for an individual matching Romeo's description. Slim build, approximately 5 foot 8 inches tall, dark complexion, wearing sunglasses and a cowboy hat, and traveling on a Delta flight bound for Fort Lauderdale. 3 state troopers approached a man fitting the description they'd been given of the suspect and inspected his airline ticket. During the interaction, Trooper Hummel asked the man who he was. The man said his surname was Cortino, as it said on the ticket, but struggled to spell it. Despite this oddity, Trooper Hummel noted that the man appeared steady and informed him he was free to leave. However, moments later, the officers realized that the Bangor-Boston flight had already deplaned. They sought out the man they'd just been talking with and found him in a different area of the airport. Upon further questioning and a search of his belongings, they discovered a wallet containing identification that revealed his actual name as Anthony Phillip Romeo. Romeo was taken into custody and detained at Logan Airport from approximately 3 p.m. until after 10 p.m. that day, when he was transferred to a detention center. During this period, Trooper Scarry, observed that Romeo remained calm and did not exhibit unusual behavior or appearance. Trooper Hummel added that Romeo's primary concern upon being taken into the police office was catching his connecting flight. Hummel described the suspect as quiet and organized. Trooper Kathleen Barrett inventoried Romeo's possessions after he was asked to change clothes. She found his driver's license and vehicle registration hidden in his left boot. These documents matched the identification in his wallet under the name Anthony Phillip Romeo, which had been presented during their second encounter at the airport. When asked about his travel history, Romeo claimed he'd been in Canada for 4 days and recounted interactions with Canadian police officers. He insisted he had not been speeding during one incident and expressed frustration over receiving a warning from an officer who turned out to be Constable Emmanuel Aucoin, the victim in this case. Romeo explained that the name change on his ticket was linked to a company his father worked with but offered no further clarification. Trooper Palumbo observed that Romeo became agitated about certain topics, such as speeding or being asked to remove his clothes, but showed little concern when discussing serious matters like Constable Aucoin's murder. The trooper thought this peculiar behavior was inconsistent with typical reactions. The Canadian authorities wanted Romeo extradited to face trial for Constable Aucoin's murder. The state of New York wanted to keep him in the U.S. to face charges for the previous murder. It was a messy situation, which Canada won, and Romeo was brought back across the border to face the murder charge. Romeo had admitted to shooting and killing Constable Aucoin, but claimed delusions had led him to believe he was confronting a monster or butcher. The court would need to determine whether insanity played a role in Romeo's actions at the time of the crime. While under psychiatric observation, Romeo described his encounter with Constable Aucoin. To Dr. Suzanne Canning, he said, quote, "When I was pulled over, my mind just went off on me. This could be the guy that I am receiving these signals from. I will be beaten up, arrested, tortured, murdered. He had his arm out of the car, waving frantically. The blinkers were flashing. He put his finger in my face. I am going to give you a little bit more than a warning. Give me the money here, and I will forget about it. I think he is taking a bribe. He was over 6 feet tall. He didn't look like a monster, but he was very tense and very tight. He came across very robotic, as if he were going to do something to me. What came to my mind was, this is the guy. Whether he was using a badge or doing it illegally, he must have something underground going on. Some kind of operation going on. He goes back to his car. My whole life is faded. Maybe he has been looking for me my entire 24 years. I lost control, fatigue, hypothermia. I just said, holy shit, this is the monster. The thought was complete silence in my mind. I didn't know what I was doing. I was in a state of meditation. My mind was hollow and lightheaded. I didn't have to think of anything. My body just took over." End quote. Romeo was found fit to stand trial in 1988, during which the Crown wanted to prove that Romeo knew precisely what he was doing when he shot and killed Constable Aucoin, while the defense presented a tale of a disturbed young man. Born on August 30th, 1963, into an affluent family in Locust Valley, New York, Romeo grew up surrounded by privilege. His parents, Rocco and Dolores Romeo, provided him with every material comfort, and he excelled academically at a private school on Long Island, at least until grade 11. Around this time, he became consumed by an obsessive desire to escape what he described as an unbearable, quote, inner awareness. This marked the beginning of his descent into drug use, including marijuana, LSD, PCP, and cocaine. According to court documents, he also sought solace in, quote, destructive behaviors such as engaging with prostitutes and isolating himself from family and friends, end quote. These choices derailed his academic trajectory, and he failed to graduate high school on time, barely managing to do so later.
So question, is engaging with sex workers de facto destructive behavior? Like
Not necessarily.
Okay, because if you're single and it's safe and it's mutual,
you're right? Well, it depends on the type of person that you are.
really.
Yeah,
It depends
I
on
guess
your
so.
issues. Like maybe that's just what you do,
Yeah, yeah.
But it sounded like this guy had other stuff going on, and that was a part of a lifestyle for him.
Yeah, just sometimes I see that thrown in, you
I
need
gotcha.
prostitutes, and that's not necessarily. If it's respectful and safe, and it's fine.
Again, if you look at the time, though, that this was going on, it wasn't exactly something that was thought of as normal. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
According to the Daily Gleaner, the shadow of paranoia had followed Romeo for years. Despite attempts at therapy, sessions he attended more to placate his parents than to seek genuine help, his mental anguish remained unrelieved. The fleeting solace he once found in drugs had diminished, leaving him trapped in his mind. His psychiatrist had even recommended admission to South Oaks Hospital, a private psychiatric facility in New York, but his mother rejected the idea. She attributed his struggles to substance abuse and dismissed the hospital's methods as overly harsh for her son. Financial resources were not an issue. Instead, it was a matter of denial and differing perspectives on treatment. Romeo's brief stint at Northeastern University in Boston ended after just one semester due to poor grades. His mental health issues deepened as he fixated on the purity of food and became convinced he was being drugged or poisoned. This paranoia strained family relationships. They avoided inviting guests over for fear of upsetting him. Attempts to integrate Romeo into the family business, Oceanwide Food Incorporated, also failed. He claimed to feel disconnected from the work and suspected employees of certain ethnic groups were conspiring against the company. His instability led him to drift geographically and emotionally. A move to Chicago lasted only a month, while a panic attack at the airport derailed plans to travel to California with friends. Romeo's delusions took increasingly bizarre forms. He believed that his inability to mature emotionally was linked to his unerupted wisdom teeth, and that others around him were aware of this secret. Auditory hallucinations reinforced his feelings of inadequacy. During court proceedings, his defense centered on a plea of not criminally responsible due to insanity. Dr. Canning testified that Romeo believed he was being pursued by a monster that brutally killed young men, and he had mistaken Constable Aucoin for this imaginary threat. Despite this testimony, Romeo was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 25 years. Following his conviction, Romeo appealed the verdict. The appeal was successful, leading to a retrial. However, the outcome remained unchanged, with Romeo's guilty verdict being upheld in 1991. This process solidified his life sentence for the murder of Constable Aucoin in Canada. While serving his sentence here, Romeo still faced legal consequences in the U.S. for the murder of John Starkey III. In 2006, nearly 2 decades after the initial crime, Romeo pleaded guilty to manslaughter in the U.S., and he received a sentence to be served concurrently with his Canadian sentence. However, Romeo appealed this judgment, which was reversed as the state had taken so long to try him. Romeo became eligible for full parole on March 8, 2012, 25 years after Aucoin's murder. However, his first parole hearing in May 2012 resulted in a denial. The Parole Board of Canada determined that Romeo still posed a risk to public safety. In subsequent years, Romeo continued to apply for various forms of release. In 2019, he was granted a temporary escorted absence from Dorchester Penitentiary to attend a meditation class in nearby Moncton. This decision marked a small step in Romeo's gradual progression through the correctional system.
Can't they do meditation classes in jail?
They absolutely can. Absolutely they can.
Why start escorting people out of Dorchester and going to a dojo or something?
Yeah, it's just an excuse for these guys to get out of jail for a time, and they're looking for any reason not to be behind bars.
I think all prisoners should have meditation classes every day.
It's true.
That should be part of the program.
It would probably be
meditation
good for everybody.
and some self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
No, honestly, because if it's there's punishment side, but there's also the learning side. And it's like to learn to like meditate and control your emotions and your thinking probably would be the best thing for society.
Wouldn't it though?
Yeah. I wouldn't be opposed to legislated meditation.
No. I mean, some people would be like, you're treating them. No, it's like, no. If you can retrain people's minds, right, that'd be a very good thing.
Mm-hmm. Romeo's most recent parole hearing occurred in February 2022. The hearing, conducted virtually due to COVID-19 restrictions, provided insights into Romeo's current state and the complexities surrounding his potential release. During the hearing, Romeo expressed remorse for his actions and highlighted the changes in his life. "I'm 58 years old now. A lot has changed in my life, and I've been in prison for 35 years, he stated. He emphasized his compliance with medication for paranoid schizophrenia diagnosed in 1989 and his participation in treatment and support programs. Romeo also addressed his past substance abuse issues, stating, quote, "I was very drunk and high at the time. I think that led to mental health issues," end quote. He assured the board of his intention to abstain from alcohol and drugs in the future. However, the parole board faced a unique challenge in Romeo's case. As an American citizen, Romeo would be deported to the United States if released, where he would not be subject to parole or supervision. This lack of post-release oversight concerned the board members. Sarah Curtis, delivering the board's decision, explained, quote, "Given the deportation order that's in place, you're not able to be supervised in the way that the board would typically see an offender serving a life sentence." Despite acknowledging positive changes in Romeo's behavior and his compliance with medication, the board ultimately denied his parole application. Sarah Curtis concluded, quote, "Having considered all of the factors, the board is of the view that you would pose an undue risk to society if you were released on full parole in the plan that's being proposed," end quote.
This is a really, really interesting quagmire.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I find this fascinating. So, a Canadian parole board,
right.
Which society are they responsible for? Right? Canadian society or American society when he's put back over the border?
Right.
Right? And I think they're taking a very human approach of trying to keep people safe in the world.
Right.
But it's an interesting challenge, isn't it? You know, interesting challenge if he met the conditions, but he couldn't be monitored in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Well, should he have been released anyway? You know what I mean? It's fascinating, right? I just find it fascinating.
Yeah, it's like
when it's cross-border, right? I mean, the flip side of that is we wouldn't release somebody to America if he was facing the death penalty there. So if you protect him, not in this case, I don't think he was. Then you also have to protect other people in America if you can't monitor them. So it's probably it's a good way of thinking. It's just a legally interesting quagmire.
yeah, for sure it is.
And frankly, I'm kind of glad he didn't get out because his daughter.
The enduring pain caused by Anthony Romeo's actions is evident in the statements from Constable Aucoin's family. During a 2012 parole hearing, Aucoin's daughter Valerie expressed her deep-seated grief and anger. She described Romeo's apology as worthless, stating that he had killed not only her father, but also her childhood. The New Brunswick Highway Patrol ceased operations in 1989 when its duties were integrated into the RCMP as part of a broader provincial restructuring of law enforcement services. This move aimed to streamline policing efforts and reduce duplication of services across the province. Anthony Romeo continues to serve his life sentence. And that's it for Dark Poutine episode 351, Killed on the Job, Constable Emmanuel Aucoin.
That's right. It's time for voicemails. You can leave us a message at 1-877-327-5786 or 1-877-DARK-PTN. We'd love to hear from you. Let's see who called us this week.
Alrighty, it is time for our very first voicemail. Let's have a listen. It's our first voicemail really back since Christmas time, so yeah.
Hi, this is Lacey from Calgary. I'm just calling to say a special thinking of you to Matthew. I know you're dealing with some very scary health issues, so you are in my thoughts, and I'm sending you strength. And I also just want to say thank you for the 2 episodes on the gay purge. I'm still constantly shocked and disgusted by how cruel we can be to one another, and how people in positions of power can abuse that so thoroughly. I found it very ironic that, they persecuted gay people, and so they had to be, keeping that a secret and keeping that, part of themselves hidden. And then they said, well, because you're acting all secretive, now we mistrust you even more, so we're going to persecute you even more. It's just all these flimsy pretexts, but it is scary how these things can come about. Even in Alberta, we see some trans rights going in the wrong direction, some things that have been passed recently, and, in the States, women's rights going back. So it's very scary how far we've come, but how far we need to go and how quickly tides can change. So I really hope as a human race, we can get it together and start being more caring. But again, thank you, Matthew and Mike. Your podcast means a lot. I learn a lot. I've been working my way through supernatural circumstances as well, which is always very uplifting and informative. But so I just wanted to say thank you for everything, thinking of you, and happy holidays. Bye.
Thanks, Lacey.
Thank you for the kind words, Lacey. Yeah, I'm so glad you picked up on that, Lacey. That whole, you need to hide yourself. Aha, you're hiding yourself. Thus, you're not trustworthy.
Yep,
right?
Exactly.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yep.
So, and thanks, Lacey. We're recording this about 4 days before I go into surgery. So, hopefully by the time this is out, this will either be depending on how it goes on the table, a posthumous podcast.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Or not.
Oh, no. Don't say that.
Come on, I have to have some dark humor, Mike.
Oh, my gosh.
This is Matthew speaking to you from the grave.
Oh. I'm at a loss. In one of my favorite phrases, oh, dear.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Hey, if I don't laugh, I'm going to cry, big boy.
Yeah, me too. I've been doing enough crying.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on. Here's another voicemail.
Hey, it's your old pal Casper calling. Just wanted to say, Matthew, you're more than welcome to come to our place in Strathroy and hang out for the day. Bring Mike with you, bring Steve with you, Justin, bring everybody. We'll have a good time. And we can check out your old stomping grounds too. Talk to you later. And go have a big dump in your toque.
Thank you, Casper.
Thanks, Casper.
Maybe next time I visit London to see my mom and bro, I'll stop into the Roy.
Well, hey, you know what? We should have a meetup in Strathroy. In the Roy.
Wouldn't that be cool?
I would love to do it. We can make it happen. Because you need to get home and visit your mom at some point. So
yeah, my stepdad Ray is coming to rugby sevens with me in February.
In February, yeah.
Yeah, so I've had it all booked. I wanted something to look forward to. My mom was like, "Are you going to be okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm just going to turn to him and go, "I'm peeing right now." I guess for some time I'm going to have some problems with holding my pee. So till I'm doing Kegels right now.
You're doing Kegels right now. I should probably start now before anything happens. I'm doing it right now, Matthew.
Kegel.
Kegels.
I can see the concentration on your face.
Oh dear. I have a weak pelvic floor. Anywho, thanks, Casper. Much appreciated. Here's another.
Hi, Mike and Matthew. I've been a long-time listener, I think since high school or earlier. But I wanted to call and thank you guys so much. Over the summer, I got into a relationship that wasn't the best, and I was listening to one of your episodes and I realized that the situation I was in was really dangerous. So I just wanted to thank you for, helping me open my eyes and find the courage to get out of there. The work you do is really, really important. I just wanted to thank you so much. Have a great day and go take a shit in your hat.
Wow. Mission accomplished. That's how I feel hearing that.
I also feel old because she's been listening since high school.
Since high school. Well, Matthew.
When did we start this podcast? 1876?
We started this when the moon landing, their moon landing was just a thought. Oh, goodness gracious me.
I'm glad you got out of that relationship.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And I'm glad that something we said helped you tweak on that. It's that actually warmed my heart, to be honest.
Me too.
That's it for this week's voicemails. Again, you can leave us one at 1-877-327-5786 or 1-877-DARK-PTN. We'd love to hear from you, even if it is just to say hi and to tell us to go shit in our hats. If you're stumped for what to chat with us about, a quick story is welcome.
Alrighty. So we do have some patrons this week. First up, we have a guy named Eugene Lewis, and Eugene is from Portland, Oregon. And interestingly, Eugene is also a donut money donor. So he felt so strongly about donating to the show that he's a donut money donor and a patron. And in his donut money donor message, he says, "I really appreciate you two guys. Wanted to visit Canada for so long. Mental health practitioner working in sex crimes in Portland, Oregon. Let's go to a Canadian gay club. Sending donut money from your family in PDX."
Fantastic. You know, David Bowie wrote that song about him.
Really?
Yeah. Eugene, I just met a boy named Eugene.
No, that's Blue Jean.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It's Blue Jean.
I was hearing it wrong this time.
Yeah. It's interesting. Eugene's picture on PayPal is Mike Tyson, which I don't know.
Fantastic.
It is really funny. So thank you so much.
Well, he's
Eugene.
he's given me where he works and where he lives, so I have nothing to add other than the David Bowie song.
Well, maybe Eugene does. He has himself a hobby.
I think he's just a muse. He's a muse to musicians.
He's a muse to musicians. Okay, yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Like you said, David Bowie.
Yeah,
allegedly.
David Bowie, was one of them, and I think Rowan Chappelle. He's a muse recently to Rowan Chappelle as well.
Oh, how so?
Just generally.
Oh, she hasn't released a song yet.
No, she hasn't released a song mentioning him, but he's in the songs.
Oh, well, that's very nice. So you can do some work here because we do have another patron this week, and her name is Celeste M. Descoteau. So Descoteau, it's spelled Descoteaux. Celeste Descoteau. So
Celeste is a great name.
It is. It's a beautiful name, really.
I'm going to say Celeste is from Sook.
From Sook, BC?
Yeah, where the rainforest meets the sea.
Oh, that's beautiful. I like that a lot.
That's her tagline.
And what does Celeste do there in Sook?
I think with her name, I think she takes people out on a boat far, far away from light pollution,
and then drops them off.
Yeah, and puts chains around them,
like Dexter.
No, and describes the night sky.
That's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah,
Celeste indicates stars. Yes, that is the root of that name, celestial.
I think that's what she does, and your mind goes to making people swim with the fishes.
Right. I mean, the name of her business, I believe, is Celestial Journeys, which is very nice. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's nice.
Here comes your ride.
The paddy wagon.
The paddy wagon. Here it comes for Matthew. Take him away.
I wonder if the paddy wagon has racist against Irish roots.
Oh, it probably does. It probably does.
That just occurred to me when it came out of my mouth.
And when you said it, I was just like, oh, shoot.
We're going to have to look that up.
Yep. Anyway, thank you to all our patrons and Donut Money donors. We appreciate you.
Guys.
Yeah.
Thanks to all our patrons and Donut Money donors, past and present, for your generosity. It helps to keep the show going. You can become a patron of Dark Poutine at patreon.com/darkpoutine. For a one-time donation, you can send us donut money via PayPal or interact using our email address, darkpoutinepodcast@gmail.com. If you don't already subscribe to the show, it would mean a lot if you did. You can easily find Dark Poutine on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. If you haven't gotten yours yet, my 2 books are available to order via links on the Dark Poutine website or anywhere fine books are sold. And speaking of darkpoutine.com, check it out for show notes and other cool stuff. We'd appreciate it if you gave Dark Poutine a like or a follow on Facebook and Instagram. Most importantly, thank you for listening. Tell your friends about us. Word of mouth is a powerful thing.
And that's it for this episode of Dark Poutine. So until next time, don't forget to be a good egg and not a bad apple.
Bye, everybody.
I miss you, Dad.